Hello everyone, it's Justine. Today I'm going to be making a card using the stamp set from the card kit of the month from Spellbinders. This is the one from August 2022, and I'm also using a stitching die from Spellbinders. So I am going to just kind of position my stamp here where I want it to be when it's on my card, but I don't want to glue down my stitching yet, just in case I mess up my stamp, which hopefully I don't, but things can happen, so you never know. I'll just use a magnet, and oh dear, I hope that didn't just mess up the placement. I think with the grid lines it looks straight, so I'm going with it. All right, for my ink, I'm going to use just a basic black. This is archival ink, and it is jet black. The color is. So I'm just going to ink up my stamp here and close my MISTI. If you don't know what a MISTI is, it's this pink platform thing. It is a stamp positioning tool, which means you're able to stamp more than one time in one place. Plus your stamp is nice and straight because you have this window, and when you're stamping with an acrylic block, your hand can go kind of sideways. So I like using the MISTI if I can because it is nice and straight. This is just a block that my sweet husband made for me with just some wood, some felt, and a doorknob. He chose the fancy one because he knows I like bling, but it basically just creates some even pressure. You could do the same thing with your hand, although my hand on this acrylic surface just kind of sticks. So with this, it's just a nice smooth glide, just allows for even pressure. There's a number of people that sell these on Etsy, and there's also some stamp positioning tools that are not as fancy looking that are available on some card websites as well. But with that, I don't need to stamp again because I can see that the whole stamp turned out very nicely, so that's always a good thing. So I'm just going to clean off my stamp quickly with a cloth and go from there. I used to use the shams from Lawn Fawn, but it just smelled. I don't know if anyone else had that issue, but it wasn't like I was putting it in a sealed container or anything. I had it in like a Tupperware container with the lid off all the time, so it was just sitting basically in a bowl with hardly any water in it, and it just smelled so bad, and like I just could not stand it. I have a strong nose, so I couldn't take it. So I've been using the Norwex cloths. I think this is technically for the kitchen, yeah, the kitchen, but this is what I use for watercoloring, for cleaning out stamps. Is it pretty? No. Does it work? Sure. So, plus it has this little like latch thing, so I can just hang it up. It dries. I know that if this ever smelled, which it hasn't yet, but if it does, if I just put it in the wash or even just hand wash it, it would come back to life. So I prefer this, but to each their own. So now that I'm done with my stamped area, I'm gonna have to put my card together now. So I get to do that, which is so fun. It's not my favorite part about stitching on cards. I'm just gonna adjust my lights here now. I prefer the stitching part more than the assembly of the stitched cards after they are finished, but I just can't have a bunch of these hanging around. I need to have some cards with them, so you gotta put them together. So I will just add some liquid glue to the back and put it on my card base. I have a little bit of some dried glue in there, so I'm just gonna take my needle and work it through, and it should be good to go. This die I think is a little bit more of an intermediate stitching die because of the lack of solid space to hide strings and to move strings around. If you are new to stitching, you could certainly try this one out, but I would recommend more of an easier die for starting off, maybe some of the stitched alphabets or the one that says hello, because it has a solid area inside. I think that one's a little easier, but if you're ready for a challenge, maybe try this one out. But really, it's not difficult. It's just a little more tricky to hide some of your ends, but you could also just work it through, make it work. It's certainly not hard to catch on to stitching once you start. And if you're interested in more stitching cards, I do have a whole playlist on my channel that's called Stitching on Cards, and it shows anything that I stitch, I put on to a video, even if it's just repeat dies. I always put them on my channel because the colors are different and the sentiments are different, embellishments are different, and with one stitch die, there's so many different possibilities. So I really enjoy stitching. Plus, you can put a stamp like this with it, and it's like a whole different look than what you might do with maybe a die in the center instead. So it looks like I will have to trim a little bit off of my right edge here, which is just fine. I kind of anticipate that with some of my projects because I used to have a paper trimmer that did not cut things very straight, and I cut out a whole bunch of paper not realizing it wasn't cutting straight. And I think this pink background paper was one of those papers. So just a little teeny slice off the side and it should be all good to go. All right, now I do not have any card bases at all. I am totally out. And I'm waiting on some coming in the mail today, so I am not going to attach this to a card and just assume I would just put this onto a card. So let's see. Oh, maybe I do. Hooray, I do. Okay. I do have one. This was one of the card bases from the card kit of the month. So hooray. I had some left over. Usually I would put the pink paper onto this first, then put the stitching on top of that, but I didn't think I had a card base, so I'm doing it a little out of order today, but that's okay. All right. Now with this, if you look carefully, you can see I used two different gems. I used a dark pink, a light pink, and oh, I guess I also used yellow. I also used the yellow ones to kind of make the centers of the flowers. So I think this would be kind of a nice card for either graduation or a congratulations on an accomplishment, but we'll see what it ends up being. If you've enjoyed today's video, go ahead and hit the like button, and YouTube will recommend more videos like this to you in the future by me and other crafty creators. So there you go. Subscribe, stick around, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.